Assalamu alaikum students. Today we are going to study about the development of globule. In the last lecture we have studied about the structure of globule, but in this lecture we are going to study how the globule is formed. Development of globule. We know that in the sexual reproduction, this is the male portion of the reproductive part of the chara. So in the last lecture we have studied about the structure of globule, but in this lecture we will study how this globule is developed. So this globule is developed on the nodal cell, and we know that if you try to draw these are the rhizoids. Basically it is the structure of or a plant body of a chara. This is the plant body of a chara, and we know that these portions like this portion is known as node, and this is also a node, but the distance between two nodes is known as internode. So this is also internode, this is internode, this is internode, but such points are known as nodes. So this globule is formed at the point of such type of nodes. So that's why we can say that globule is formed at the nodal cells or from the nodal cell. And we take this cell like this. For example, this is a nodal cell present at the node. This is a nodal cell. This nodal cell divide and produce two cells. Division in this cell occur and produce two cells. This is a first cell and this is a second cell. So it means these cells are produced as a result of division of this nodal cell. This is upper cell and this is lower cell. Now what will happen from such type of cells? This cell, which is known as lower cell, it divide and produce a node. For example, this is a node, and this node is formed as a result of division of this lower cell. But this upper cell produce, which is attaching with this cell, which is known as nodal cell, which is present on the apex. So that's why it is also known as apical cell. Apical cell. This upper cell with apical cell is present, but this cell give rise a node. This is a node. I am again telling you, this lower cell form this structure which is known as node, and these cells are present at the upper side. Here this one is a upper cell, but at the upper position that will be a apical cell. So this is upper cell, and upper cell always form the pedicel. It will form the pedicel, and this is a pedicel. But here now this apical cell is still present undivided. Apical cell. This is basically this cell. It means the apical cells are present at the node. It means globule is produced from the nodal cell. Nodal cell is basically upper cell, apical cell, this apical cell divide and produce one upper cell and one lower cell. This lower cell divide and produce this nodes, and upper cell will divide to produce a pedicel. But at this cell, still this apical cell is present undivided. Now what will happen forward to this? Now I am going to draw this structure. So before the drawing, I am trying to write here nodal cells give rise a globule. How this globule is formed? It means apical cell divide, and produce two cells and produce one upper and one lower cell. Lower cell give rise a node and produce a node. Lower cell produces a node, and upper cell give rise a pedicel of a globule. Upper cell give rise pedicel of globule. So now I am trying to draw a structure of globule, which is basically formed from these cells. So I am raising this level structure to make a diagram. So basically these are internodes, and here this is a point, basically a structure which is formed. This is known as node. This is a node, this is internode, and this is the internode, and this is a node. This node is formed from this cell, which is formed as a result of division of this apical cell. This is a structure which is known as pedicel, and this pedicel is formed from this upper cell. And pedicel, on upper to the pedicel there is a cell which is known as apical cell. So now I am making this structure. This is basically pedicel, and upper to this pedicel, this is a cell which is known as apical cell. This apical cell divide here and produce 8 cells. It means octet. So this divide and produce 8 cells. It means these are the 4 cells and 4 cells, and the second pair of 4 cells is present lower side. So apparently these are looking like 4, but actually beneath these 4 cells another 4 cells are present lower side of this portion. It means these are the basically 8 cells. It means 4 cells upper and 4 cells lower. So 8 cells are here in this portion, which is produced as a result of division of this apical cell. Now here 8 cells are formed, and now 8 cells are known as octet. This octet is formed as a result of division of this apical cell. Now here is the time, each cell of this octet will divide and produce 3 cells. It means there are 8 cells, and out of these all 8 cells will produce 3 cells. It means the total number of cells will become 24 cells, and these cells are arranged in 3 layers, 3 circles, in such that 8 cells are arranged in this like this, and other 8 cells are present like this, and this is the third layer of 8 cells. That means 8 cells, 16 cells and 24 cells. That means now 24 cells are present. Where these cells are present? These cells are present at this portion. Keep in mind, these 4 cells, these 3 layers but 24 cells. This outer layer of 8 cells will form a shield of a globule. How the shield of globule is formed? Like this. This is a shield. This is basically a shield of globule, and this shield is formed from outer layer of 8 cells. This is the shield cell. So in the last lecture we have studied that this shield is composed of only 8 cells. So these are outer 8 cells which are forming the shield of a globule. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 cells. So 8 cells are formed, but in the last lecture we also studied that some ingrowth, radial ingrowth grow and make this structure multicellular. So these are outgrowth, radially ingrowth, which are for growing inwards. So that's why these structures are known as ingrowth. So this was the function of outer layer of 8 cells. Now we are going toward the middle layer. This is the middle layer, which is known as second layer. This second layer will form these structures, and these structures are known as manubrium. These structures are known as manubriums. Basically, these are the manubriums. These manubriums are formed from this second layer. These are the manubriums. These are the manubriums. This is a shield which is 8 celled. This is far from outer cells, and this is manubrium. Basically these are the manubriums. These are far from these middle cells, but now there is a structure which is known as at this position, and this structure is known as primary capitula. This primary capitula is far from this inner cells, these types of inner cells which are formed basically as a result of division of 8 cells. So 3 layers are formed. Outer layer give rise to shield, middle layer give rise to such type of structure which are known as manubrium, and the innermost layer is will give rise a structure. This structure is known as primary capitula. And this primary capitula will give rise, divide many times and produce these structures, and these structures are known as secondary capitula. Secondary capitula. These are secondary capitula. These are far from the division of this primary capitula. And these primary capitula will give rise that divide many times and produce a chain of cells, and this chain of cells is known as antheridial filaments. These are basically antheridial filaments, and these antheridial filaments are producing from the secondary capitula, and these secondary capitula are formed from the primary capitula. These are antheridial filaments, and these antheridial filaments contain a cells, and these cells are known as antheridial proper. Antheridial proper, and these antheridial proper cells are basically still immature. They will become mature and converted into antheridium. Mature antheridium, and this mature antheridium can fertilize the female structure which is known as archegonium. So this was all about the male structure of chara which is known as globule, how globule is developed. This is the body of chara, and this is the node. Some nodal cells. Nodal cells give rise a structure or converted into a apical cell. This apical cell divide and produce two cells, upper cell and lower cell. Lower cell will give rise a node, and the upper cell give rise this structure, and this structure is known as pedicel. This is a pedicel. And still apical cell is present unchanged or undivided. When these structures are formed, then this structure, apical structure, is present here. It divide and produce 8 cells, and each cell out of 8 cells divide and produce further 3 cells. So that's why 24 cells are present, and these are arranged in 3 layers. One is outer layer, second is middle layer, and third is inner layer. So outer layer will give rise a shields. It means 8 cells are present in the shields. So these are also 8 cells. This expand and produce a globe-like structure. So that's why this is known as a globule. Then the inner layer, which is also known as middle layer, the middle layer gave these structures. These structures are known as manubrium. Basically, these are attached from one side to the this shield, and another side to this primary capitulum. And the inner layer or inner cell, which are totally present inside of this structure, this apical cell will give rise this structure, and this structure is known as primary capitula. This primary capitular cells divide and produce such type of cells, and these cells are known as secondary capitula. The cells of secondary capitula divide more again and again and produce a filament, and these such type of filaments are known as antheridial filaments. But the cells which are still present in the antheridial filaments are known as antheridial proper, but still these are immature cells. When they will become mature, then they are converted into antheridia. So these are the male sex structures of the chara which are present or which are developed in the male structure which is known as globule. In the next lecture, we will study about the female portion or a female structure of the chara which is known as